Welcome back to Forza Horizon 4.
Forza Horizon 4.
Brand new festival playlist.
You've been asking, and we've been listening.
Lego Speed Champions expansion.
Toyota is back in Forza.
When someone comes to me with the question, what game do you recommend? For the last 6 years, only one choice has sprung to mind. Now, this question could be asked by a range of people, those who want a casual laid-back experience, or those looking for something more technical. Forza Horizon 4 is the answer I give, and there are many reasons for that. See, little did we know, but back in 2018, when that McLaren Senna showed up at E3, something would change in the Forza franchise, bridging a long-withstanding gap for those who were hesitant about dipping their toes into a typically walled-off, dare I say gate-kept, segment of the gaming space. Racing games. And in the result, catapulting the Horizon series to legendary status across the wider gaming industry. With 6 years of experience behind me, and the playtime to match, I can finally bring you along into a comprehensive retrospective on the game that changed my life forever. This is Forza Horizon 4. To understand what the deal is with Horizon 4, we have to jump a little further back to Horizon 3. FH4, releasing in late 2016, was the game that first captured me with just how innovative racing games could be. I was only 11 at the time of release, and yet I was starstruck at the level of detail while cruising around in a chrome Aventador. Starstruck with the way that the map intertwined so many places at once, all of them accessible on your own or with other players. Coming from years of crummy Roblox games, it was a step up in every way possible. This game was the proof that Forza had only started to tap into a hidden goldmine of what an open world car game could be throughout the 2010s, and with that, community hype around the next release started to swirl online. Rumours of a Japan map floated years before Horizon 4 was even revealed. People took what they didn't like about Horizon 3 and gave genuine requests for what they'd like to see addressed. Expectations among the die-hard fans were steadily rising. It wasn't until the summer of 2018 that we saw what Playground Games had been working on behind the scenes. Forza Horizon 4 was revealed on stage at E3 during the June 10th, 2018 Xbox conference. Right off the bat, the trailer sparked a wave of applause from the audience and gave us a glimpse at exactly what the game had to offer.
Beautiful, historic Britain.
And while I won't go too into depth, let's just say things got a bit emotional when I realised the game was set in the UK. From that moment, I knew this game was shaping up to be something special, far eclipsing Horizon 3's Australia. Information soon started to trickle out in regards to the release date, pricing, game features and more. With June 10th being the first important date for Horizon 4, the next one was fast approaching, October 2nd. 2018 was a good year for racing games in general, giving us both Wreckfest and The Crew 2 in June with Horizon 4 in October, and while I wouldn't consider Wreckfest to pose any threat to a new Horizon title, I would definitely consider The Crew 2 to be direct competition. Ubisoft's America-based title released 4 months ahead of Horizon 4 and was revealed over a year prior. This initially seemed like cause for concern, however it wasn't as much of an issue with Horizon being included on Xbox Game Pass and on the Play Anywhere program at launch, making it a compelling try for people who didn't want to drop anywhere from £60 to £100 on a new racing title. Forza's newest game had to truly stand out with a unique spin, something that would grab people's attention and keep them playing, but we'll get onto that later in the video. Speaking of the price, Horizon 4 released in 3 versions, all with their own pros and cons. Standard Edition was bundled in with Game Pass or could be bought for £50 and included the base game plus Formula Drift car pack. The Deluxe Edition was a step up to £65 but tacked on the car pass, featuring 42 vehicles on its own. And the Ultimate Edition came in at the most expensive, being £80, but also included the James Bond car pack, VIP membership, both game expansions and 4 days early access. My point is, the game itself gives you room to choose, right down to what level of content you want to pay for when you buy it. This is a recurring theme in Horizon 4 that has slowly become more prevalent as the Horizon franchise has matured and figured out what it wants to be. And that brings me on to my next point. The campaign of Forza Horizon 4 can be summed up in exactly 4 words. It just doesn't exist. What I mean by that is, Playground Games were stuck in a predicament with the success of Horizon 3 2 years previous, where the backbone of the gameplay was focused on your character being the festival director, going around Australia to establish new festival sites by increasing its popularity. This was a new formula for the Horizon franchise, but one that I think Playground quickly realised they couldn't easily repeat without it becoming a point of criticism. So, they went the other way, leaning into the increased multiplayer aspects in their next game. Horizon 4 was the pioneer of this strategy, and overall, I think it paid off pretty well. The closest Horizon 4 gets to a genuine campaign is the Horizon roster. You know, the crash course through each season that you need to qualify for in order to unlock online? Yeah, that's the entire campaign. It was generally received by older players to be lackluster in substance, taking around 3 to 4 hours to complete, and was described as not living up to any of the expectations set by the first 3 Horizon games. But say you're a new player, and you've completed the Horizon roster. Where do you go from here? What do you do in such a vast open world? Now, you could explore the open world by yourself in Horizon Solo, but Horizon Life is where the developers intended for you to be spending most of your playtime in. Horizon 4's multiplayer servers had a maximum capacity of 72 players at any one time, but the big drawback of this is that the game would only make a portion of them visible to you, generally depending on proximity and which part of the map you were in. While this eased strain on the servers, many people found it made the game feel a little less lively than it should have, despite player numbers holding steady over the main years of Horizon 4's lifespan. The one big upside to the push for multiplayer is that when people congregate, such as under a Forza Fun Live blimp or at either ends of the motorway, it's a recipe for quick fun and lots of memories to be made. Hell, there's still people on my Xbox friends list who I met doing drag races years ago. But beyond that, Horizon 4 offers up some unique experiences within the open world that can make it feel more alive, such as Horizon Stories and Businesses, which at first felt like an evolution of the bucket list feature from Horizon 3, but quickly expanded out into a playable storyline that gives you a glimpse into how Horizon Britain operates. A lot of people would tell you that these side quests are the closest Horizon 4 gets to a true story, and I'm inclined to agree. This was one of those features that Playground Games experimented with over the lifespan of the game, starting off with a handful at launch and adding in more over time. Those of you who played the game back in 2019 will remember just how well received the Top Gear story was, but that Mercedes 6x6 was an absolute ball ache to obtain. Some people rightly found these stories a little bit cringy, but looking back on them, they're a godsend compared to what we have in Horizon 5. You can also interact with various collectibles, PR stunts, locations and events within the open world. Collectibles like the Influence and XP boards will net you more fans or level you up quicker, which is great for new players. They pose their own challenge in unlocking them, requiring you to be creative in how you get to them, or you could just watch a YouTube video like everyone else does. Alongside these, there are the PR stunts, all of which are rated by stars, and there are 4 main types. Danger signs, where you go for the longest jump distance. Speed traps, where your goal is the fastest speed possible. Speed zones, get the fastest speed possible over a certain distance. And lastly, drift zones, score as many drift points as you can. These are great at breaking up the racing events with little side quests for you to aim for. All of these are hooked up to global leaderboards, giving yet another opportunity for people to try their best and beat out other players at something. Horizon 4 continued the long-standing tradition of including barn finds, predetermined cars that can be found by the player, sent to the festival, and picked up once they've been fully restored. This is a pretty fun element of the open world, even as a player who's done them time and time again. I make it a point to not see what they are whenever a new game comes out, as the surprise upon discovering them is something that Horizon does amazingly, and I think that Horizon 4 does especially well. A new feature Horizon 4 brought is player houses, which were mainly designed as a way to let people choose where on the map they wanted to spawn when logging in. Horizon 4 only features one festival location, a contrast to Horizon 3's 4. Adding in player houses, Horizon 4 features 13 different locations to spawn in from, and more choice is always a good thing in my book. The game also introduces beauty spots, a frankly pointless feature in the grand scheme of the game, but nonetheless a nice way to discover just what it is you might be looking at. And lastly, the open world includes showcases. These are one-off experiences separate from everything else the festival does, all centred around a race between you and something wacky like an Avro Vulcan, a hovercraft, even a motocross team. You'll play through this in the game's intro, and is also the only time you'll see bikes in the game. Fun little fact there. The other two are the Halo experience, complete with a skybox that makes it look like the entire map is situated on a Halo ring, and the Flying Scotsman showcase, which if you can catch it while it's being remixed, is one giant reference to Harry Potter. All 5 of these showcase events bring something wild to the table, giving you the sense that the open world is truly alive, and that anything is possible. While all of that goes to show just how Horizon has matured since the first game, it doesn't really mean much unless one thing is perfected: the gameplay. The fundamental core of Horizon 4, of any Horizon game, the one thing that ties everything else together is the gameplay. The way that your car interfaces with the road as you cruise along at 50 or blaze by at 250. This has only become easier with subsequent Horizon titles, but I feel like Horizon 4 hit a particular sweet spot. Going back and playing Forza Horizon 1 shows just how advanced the handling is in the recent games. Cars feel more nimble and less sluggish. They react in different ways depending on road condition, the weather, setup, power, etc. There's so many possibilities that affect how a car feels to drive, and yet newer players can pick up the basics within minutes of trying the game. It's as close to real life as Horizon gets. See, I've driven the majority of my time in the game on a wheel, and that has allowed me to really dive into the driver's seat of my chosen car, with even the smallest bump in the road sending a jolt via force feedback. It allows you to tap into the hidden elements of the driving mechanics that make the game feel so refined, even on a controller. People will say that wheels aren't suited to Horizon games, but they absolutely are. The game transforms from something two-dimensional on a screen to something three-dimensional, reaching out at you to experience it in a much more involved way. Whether you're team controller or team wheel, the driving in this game is, in one word, relaxing. It's not a burdensome task to load up the game and cruise free roam, or even jump into a couple laps of the Goliath, and that's something you'll find rarely executed well among the racing genre. Some die-hard OGs from Horizon 2 and 1 may disagree with me here, but as the franchise has grown, more and more people come to love it for its gameplay over anything else, which was a major factor to keeping the game alive throughout its life. It really is a testament to this game that even after 6,000 hours of playtime, I still find it in me to log on, jump into any random car, and just drive. This part of the video may ruffle some feathers, but it's time we talk about the cars. Forza is nothing without its cars, and Horizon 4 is a pretty good example of that. At launch, Horizon 4 came with over 100 more cars than its predecessor, up from 350 to over 450. Though as I'm sure many Forza fans are aware of by now, when new cars arrive, old ones must leave. Both Toyota and Mitsubishi were notoriously absent when the game was released, save for 2 Arctic trucks which managed to make their way into the car roster. For a lot of players, this overshadowed returning fan favourites such as the Hoonigan lineup going from paid DLC in Horizon 3 to auto show cars in Horizon 4. This was an overwhelming disappointment in online discourse as many Forza players grew up idolising such cars as the Lancer Evo and the Supra. In spite of these absences, a game releasing with nearly 500 cars at launch is nothing to scoff at, and those of us who peruse our garages for something new to take out would be having an absolute field day. Through in-game updates over the next 2.5 years, Horizon 4 wrapped up with exactly 753 cars, representing an almost 2/3 increase in available vehicles, but again, we'll touch up on that later. The options to pick from were virtually endless, be it hypercars, chavvy little hatchbacks, rally legends, or even the odd six-wheeler. Before we continue, I want to quickly dive into a little tangent on a topic that not enough people acknowledge when talking about the Forza games, and that is car licensing. Car licensing is the bane of racing games, especially racing games which push the limit on what manufacturers will allow their cars to be shown doing. Grand Theft Auto, while not explicitly a racing title, comes up with its own cars rather than licensing from automotive icons. Because do you really think that Ferrari would want to see an SF90 getting launched halfway across the map only to get orbitally obliterated? No, I don't think so. This is only one of the reasons, and the big misconception around licensing is that Forza, Playground Games, Xbox, hell, even all of Microsoft if you will, can snap their fingers and obtain a license. If a brand says no, they say no. I want to be clear on this point, that I'm not trying to say all of this is the fault of brands. A lot of it just comes down to which cars the developers want to prioritise resources for the most, which ones they think us players will highly regard and which ones we won't. Keep in mind that some manufacturers have their own reasons. Porsche was tied to EA back in the Horizon 3 days, Tesla seems to have vanished from Horizon 4 onwards, as has Rolls-Royce, with Toyota's initial reasoning being their exclusivity to Gran Turismo, and also games promoting illegal street racing. Need for Speed. I myself, and this is where everyone goes down to the comments to shit on me, personally didn't care that Toyota wasn't initially included. I've held the mindset that the more you hype something up, the more liable you are to getting severely disappointed when it doesn't perform as expected. Although one thing is true, pretty much everyone with an inclination towards a certain type of vehicle had more variety than ever. Horizon 4 also saw a change in how resourceful cars were. Most could be fairly competitive not only across multiple classes, but also even race disciplines. This primarily comes down to how a car is tuned, which brings me on to the next aspect of cars: customization. Forza has had a tumultuous relationship with car customisation for as long as I can remember, but Horizon 4 is where they really doubled down on giving players the ability to make pretty much anything they wanted. There are three main ways you can spice up your car: the upgrade shop, the tuning menu, and the livery editor. But we'll start with the upgrade shop. This is where you can visually change, modify, or swap out the major parts of your car, such as bumpers, suspension, tyres, rims, and more. All of the big mods that will double your horsepower or shave another tenth off your quarter-mile time. This has remained largely the same for about a decade, owing to the fact that most long-time players already have the layout memorised, and for new players it's largely self-explanatory. Every single car in the game has access to this shop, which is a true highlight of the Horizon franchise. Other games such as Need for Speed or even Forza Motorsport notoriously have certain cars which are uncustomisable or severely limited in what you can do to them in terms of upgrades. The possibilities are truly endless here. Although all cars are equal in that they can be upgraded, some are more equal than others, coming with more custom body kit options or different power options than other cars. The game doesn't necessarily make this known, leading to a consolidation of focus among fan favourites for unique body mods, such as the RX-7 and Supra. Nonetheless, the game regularly incentivises you to explore the upgrades each car has, whether that's merely to create a wacky build or to gain a competitive edge. And if we're talking competition, the tuning menu takes it to the next level. Now I'll admit, I don't dive into the tuning menu nearly as much as I should, and I feel like that's true for a lot of players. Within it, you can alter pretty much anything the upgrade shop doesn't let you, such as tyre pressure, gear ratios, ride height, downforce, and more. Playground games seemingly pride themselves on the integration of custom parts, as everything you do to your car genuinely matters, right down to the weight of your rims affecting your 0 to 60 time. You can even change the camber of your car and it will reflect as you drive, offering various grip levels, meaning there's a lot of trial and error to create the best setup. The tuning menu is extensive, to say the least, and requires some pretty intricate knowledge of how it works before you can utilise it fully, which can make it a bit daunting for new players. However, it has to be said that the complexity at which you can modify your car gives Horizon more appeal than it usually would have with those who prefer a simulator-style racer, such as Motorsport. But on the whole, I've seen a lot of people shy away from it. This has given rise to the tunes page becoming a battleground for tuners to push out the best, most efficient tunes for each car in hopes of scoring a lot of downloads. Unfortunately, the way this menu is set up, you can't preview a tune, so people will put up eye-catching titles only for others to realise the tune is terrible. But at that point, the game has already awarded the creator a small credit bonus, so they don't care. And if anything, they're incentivised to keep doing it. The tuning meta in Horizon 4 was often relegated to one or two legends among the community, such as Donjo One Song. But the space in which most Forza legends make their name is, you guessed it, the Livery Editor. I've sunk tens, if not hundreds of hours into the Livery Editor over the course of my time playing Horizon 4. And that's largely down to the fact that it epitomises the ultimate form of self-expression in this game. People can put on the same wheels, tint and body kit as you, but no one can truly copy a well-done livery. The Livery Editor, much like the upgrade shop and tuning menu, offers both basic and advanced methods to implement your ideas. The core paint menu allows for a car's body, rims and windows to be customised pretty extensively. All cars will come with a manufacturer colour applied, which may be one in a list of other available colours you'd find on the car in real life. However, this isn't always consistent. You'll find one car has 20 options, while another will have 1 or 2. Some cars even have unexpected options, such as a C7 Corvette Z06 featuring a full Bondurant livery. From my experience, these colours are replicated fairly accurately to their real life specs. However, you can fine-tune a specific colour in the next tab, or go even further with the special colours, ranging from semi-gloss to metal flake, carbon fibre, Kevlar, woodland camo, and diamond plating. Some of these options are truly out there, and thus rarely utilised for anything other than playing around. Anyone want a car made of zinc? Horizon 4's big change to this menu was the increased depth at which the basic options go. The body section features separate paintable groups, which means the possibility of changing the primary colour but keeping accents, for instance. The other big one that was received well by painters was the rim section, dividing parts of the rim into their own groups, allowing for more accurate replicas of some real life specs that you wouldn't have been able to do in past Horizon games. Horizon 4's crown jewel of customization has to be the vinyl and decal system, allowing you to pick from a range of regular shapes to, in simple words, make more shapes. You can see how all of this comes together alongside upgrades and tuning to create one of the best implemented and highly regarded customization systems out there, with no car excluded from a wide range of personalization. It's merely up to the player on how far they want to take it. Even though the UI of the decal editor hasn't changed in years, it still requires a bit of a learning curve to grasp how to efficiently create designs, patterns, logos and more. Once you do figure it out though, it's not hard to spend upwards of 10 hours on a single car discovering what works best. Having the ability to group things and save them to your profile is a huge benefit, not only because you're able to reuse logos or patterns on other projects, but so can others, if you publish it. Do be warned though, using public decals others have made will lock your own livery, rendering it unpublishable. Overall, Horizon 4's customization system is a huge strength the game has, and is just one of the many specialties that players have taken up as the game offers more and more things for you to do. Speaking of things to do, Horizon 4 offers up plenty in online adventure. A whole host of game modes that come with their own unique selling points and playstyles. We'll start with the one I'm sure most people are familiar with, seasonal playground games, or team games. This mode is meant to be a fun, relaxing online experience with two teams battling it out in games of Capture the Flag, Team King, or Infection. These games will run twice for a total of 6 rounds, allowing teams to play both offense and defense. I never really got too into this game mode, finding that it was more hassle than it was worth, and barely tolerating it for the playlist requirement. I understand the concept that the devs, Playground Games, were going for with Playground Games, but when left in the hands of players, things quickly break down. Cheaters, overall bad sportsmanship, and griefers are rife throughout most sessions. It isn't uncommon to see half a team up and quit by the 3rd or 4th round if things aren't going their way. That being said, you will also get sessions where both teams play excellently, and it can result in some of the most satisfying gameplay Horizon has to offer. Throughout Horizon 4's lifespan, I've probably only played 15 sessions max. But coming back to do the final playlist in August, each and every Playground Games was fraught with excitement and spirited play from both teams. It almost instilled a sense of regret that I didn't sink more time into the game mode when the playlist was at its peak. Moving on from Playground Games, you can enter 2 types of races against other players through online adventure, either in a team of 6, much like you would in the trial, or in a free-for-all. You also have the option to go ranked, granting you access to the League Rewards tab, or unranked, where winning is the only goal. I'll start off by saying that Horizon 4 is a victim of its own success. It was the first Horizon game to be featured on Game Pass, expanding the audience to anyone holding a subscription. With the increased player count and seemingly open ability for people who've never played a Forza game to jump into online racing, all 4 of these game modes quickly devolved into what I call an utter war crime upon Forza kind. I have never, in my 6 years this game has existed, had a single good online racing experience on any of these game modes. Rammers and wall riders were absolutely everywhere. It certainly spawned some interesting liveries to try and combat the problem. 2 distinct measures were put in place by the developers to try and curtail bad racing etiquette. If wall riding was detected, you'd be hit with the temporary speed restriction, and imminent collisions would result in ghosting for a few seconds. However, this system is a real mixed bag and is nowhere near foolproof. Dirty racers still found ways to cheese the system. You could nudge opponents into the wall, initiating them with the slowdown, or knocking them out of a checkpoint entirely, which would usually send them straight to last place. It got so bad that Playground Games straight up removed rank racing from Horizon 5 in the hopes players wouldn't resort to using these tactics to get ahead, even on their own teammates. I'm speaking from personal experience here, but what's someone who's also got a fair amount of online experience in prior games supposed to think? I don't recall seeing this behaviour back in Horizon 3. Everyone who went out and bought the game was either coming in from motorsport or had enough of a vested interest to ensure their own experience went smoothly. Roughly £60 worth of vested interest, might I clarify. Having said that, this is a classic case of a few bad players dragging down the perception of an entire subset within the Horizon player base. To be clear, the vast majority of people who play these modes are either average or better when it comes to racing. It's merely the way that Horizon 4 exploded into relevance via Game Pass that facilitated a breakdown in the otherwise serious game modes. And as a message to the rammers, if you want to ram others, go play Wreckfest. On a lighter note, back in Update 8, those of us that like getting sideways were treated with a long overdue addition to online, and that is Drift Adventure. The entire premise is that you run the route of a typical race circuit and try to squeeze as many points out of your car during a lap. I love this game mode. It was more of a structured, rewarding way to learn how to drift, at least for myself. I never touched drifting back in Horizon 3, owing to the handling feeling slightly heavier and thus harder to master than this game did. Horizon 4 was the point at which I said, let's give it a shot, and Drift Adventure played a huge part in helping to overcome that initial phase of getting to grips with a new skill. The way Drift Adventure is set up, your first lap will never be your best, and thus players quickly discovered that saving the sideways action for lap 2 onwards was the best way to efficiently use up the allotted time per round. This was definitely an oversight on the part of Playground. If it were up to me, I'd remove the lap constraint entirely. This part of the video is what everything we've just talked about leads up to. There are 3 things I want to highlight here, and I consider these to be the things that can make or break a Forza Horizon title. The map, the seasons, and the soundtrack. So, let's start with the map. Horizon 4's map, dubbed Horizon Britain, is one of the most well-crafted, beautiful, faithful renditions of a real-life location I've ever seen. It's no secret that Forza Horizon pioneers taking inspiration from real-world locations, cherry-picking the best bits and mashing it all together with somewhat fictional roads in between. All of the first 3 Horizon games take place in locations people widely consider great destinations to travel to, making them perfect for the Horizon Festival and the atmosphere it brings. As we all know, Horizon 1 was set in the central United States region, Colorado specifically. It featured the Rockies, Red Rock Amphitheatre, and plenty more. Horizon 2 was set on the border between France and Italy, offering some crazy coastal views which have almost become a staple of the franchise. Horizon 3, which is where I picked up Forza for the first time, is set in Australia and has some iconic locations. The 12 Apostles, Byron Bay, Surfer's Paradise, the Pink Lakes, Kiwa Valley, and more. But Horizon 4, Britain, really? In the months between the reveal at E3 and the global launch, the one topic swarming debate around Horizon 4 was the decision to go for Britain. Even though Britain may not be considered the top destination to take a high-octane, bass-infused festival to, I think the unique situation that the devs found themselves in was what allowed for the map to be executed near on perfectly. Playground Games is based in Leamington Spa, not far from a lot of the locations Horizon 4 takes inspiration from. Going for a map set in places they could easily travel to was a great decision in hindsight, seemingly allowing them to create a map based on the view from their backyard. Those in the map department knew exactly what categories Britain's landscape would fall short in, giving them the opportunity to adapt it into something that, while not being 100% true to Britain, still feels well-rounded and incredibly polished with the creative liberties taken. Horizon Britain takes the criticism Horizon Australia had and implements some pretty hefty improvements. The previous lack of terrain elevation is swapped out for tons of it. You can barely find a road in the game that's straight, let alone flat. The scenery is extremely pleasant to look at and drive through. The vast expanses of oak trees and occasional wind turbines mounted atop hills invites feelings of serenity, calm, and relaxation. I've spent many an hour just admiring the view from the peaks of Glen Rannoch, looking out over farmland and the rail yard, the bustling movement of Edinburgh just off to the left, with Bamburgh Castle way off in the distance. Even now, 6 years on, the sheer size of Horizon 4's map is nothing short of impressive. Beyond the plains of Moorhead and the thick Lakehurst trees lies even more. Slate Quarry, the Festival, Derwent Water, Broadway, and Ambleside, just to name a few. All of this coalesces into a map that's both memorable and easily explorable, yet will still surprise you with new locations every once in a while, even if you think you've discovered everything. Horizon Britain offers up opportunities for all manner of road, dirt, and off-road racing to take place, keeping them all extremely balanced and feeling vitally important. Playground Games are great map builders, and I never felt like the immersion was broken by invisible barriers, unlike some of their past titles. The entirety of the map is explorable, save for cleverly hidden barriers, covered by trees or far out into water. Nevertheless, curiosity spurred players into breaking past these, revealing hidden spots, unfinished sections, and even theories of future map expansions via the bridges north of Edinburgh. And let's talk about Edinburgh. A lot of people prior, during, and even post-life cycle of the game felt that Edinburgh was a poor choice for a main city, favouring London as the better choice. I've always taken issue with this, as Edinburgh is already severely compacted to fit in the top corner of the map, all while including the most important landmarks. London would have been impossible to replicate without major drawbacks such as size, detail, density, and traffic, just to name a few. Edinburgh just works, offering a scenic main straight with other hidden gems across a city, such as the cherry trees. Edinburgh also comes with a distinct heritage, one that has been reflected in Horizon 4 to highlight and show off older, more beautiful buildings, rather than the glass skyscrapers that make up most of London's skyline. On this point, I don't think Playground could have picked a better city. The roads in Horizon 4 generally feel wider than you'd find in real life. I know this was a bit confusing to some people at the start, but then again, it's a game. A big chunk of the manner in which players drive simply wouldn't be possible if the roads reflected the real world. I can't fault the devs for prioritising fun gameplay over being geographically accurate on this one. The roads in Horizon 4 are unmatched in terms of fun. Many of them simply become reflex after you've put in as many hours as I have. The ease at which you can shoot through corners, veer off into dense forests, or pull a PR stunt is unmatched, at least in my opinion. Coupled with the beautiful scenery, Horizon 4 is a game I keep coming back to, even with Horizon 5 nearing 3 years since its own launch. Maybe it's just the unbreakable emotional connection I've built with the game, or that it really is that fun to drive in. When free time is limited, sitting down and deciding which game to play is almost never a long affair. A part of me always gets pulled back in for more. The fact that I can look out of my own window and see sights not unlike Horizon Britain is something 11-year-old me would have only dreamed of. Going and visiting the Lake District in January of this year was like stepping foot into the game world in a way. Horizon 4 feels like home, the home away from home. I can recount more of Horizon 4's roads than I can those in my own hometown, and that's why this game will always be at the top of my list in terms of map design. All of that is just one part of the equation, and as Horizon 4 so eloquently proved, seasons are here, and they are here to stay. Seasons are so beautifully intertwined within Horizon that I can't even entertain the thought of a future game without them, and that's why I'm including it in this section. Past games feel like they're missing something vital, as wild as that might sound. I really commend the devs for getting seasons mostly right on the first try, because this game benefited greatly from them both in terms of variety and replayability. Horizon 4's seasons consisted of summer, where the roads are dry and grip levels are high, to autumn, leaves falling off the trees litter the ground, only to get washed away as the rain falls. Winter covers the entire map in a thick layer of fluffy snow. Road gritters can be seen driving up and down the motorway, and Derwent water freezes over to reveal an icy drag strip. You might even spot a snowman every once in a while. Spring brings the vibrant hues back. Grass slowly expands across the fields to grow where it had previously died off. This was a brilliant way to keep the players invested and coming back, and this was definitely true for the first 12 to 18 months of release. The introduction of different driving conditions has always kept players on their toes. Your car would act differently in summer than it would in winter, and even in winter you'd find the occasional road caked in snow, turning any car into a temporary drift machine. I had a lot of fun with this back at launch, that's for sure. I've had a strong suspicion that Horizon 4 was fated to be set in Britain ever since the Blizzard Mountain expansion for Horizon 3 came out. In the same way the LEGO Brick Challenges were a proof of concept for accolades in Horizon 5, Blizzard Mountain was a proof of concept to show that seasons could work, and players liked the idea of snow. Britain, or at least Scotland and parts of northern England, have the real-life climates to facilitate the way Playground added seasons into the game. However, it all comes down to one thing: snow. Snow is a double-edged sword within the game, and on one hand it adds to the realism of the seasons system, giving some jaw-dropping visuals when driving around, introduces more of a challenge when encountering the vastly different conditions, etc. On the other hand, however, and for new players especially, it can be a real pain in the ass to deal with. A lot of people don't play Horizon games for the grind, they play them for a laid-back and relaxed driving experience. This means that a lot of regular players are either stuck between dealing with the winter season for a week or avoiding the game altogether, and to be honest, I don't blame them. This was Playground's one big oversight when it came to seasons, and I'm sure it wouldn't have been impossible for them to implement season-specific online lobbies, or a drop-down menu for single player to change seasons. Seasonal events could still run, just separately. Of course, you get detractors who are gonna complain no matter what. I've seen more than enough whiny comments from people about how their 1200 horsepower hypercar can't handle snow for one lifetime. As I said at the start of this video, the game gives you room to choose, and unfortunately, seasons are the one few places that philosophy falls short. One place this game personally doesn't fall short at all is in the soundtrack department. It's no secret that the boot screen music, A Moment Apart by ODESZA, is synonymous with Forza Horizon 4 in the minds of millions. We're at the point in the life cycle where people are starting to reminisce about those early years, all punctuated by that swivelling McLaren Senna and ODESZA in the background. Continuing on from this, you also have the in-game radio. Horizon 3's Block Party, Bass Arena and Pulse defined my taste in music throughout the latter half of the 2010s, and Horizon 4 only strengthened that. The Horizon games always come out swinging when it comes to their soundtrack. After all, they are centred around a music festival laced with cars, and it simply wouldn't be a true Horizon game without some banging tunes to listen to. From the day the game launched, I've had a lot of the Pulse and Bass Arena tracks disseminated into my regular music playlists. I even loaded the entire soundtrack onto an iPod when I flew over to Hungary, as those of you who've watched my Budapest vlog will know. The selection of songs Horizon 4 gives you in-game is vast, with different songs best matching different situations. I'll frequently drift to Clap Your Hands by Le Youth, or go full send to Bad Love by Earl St. Clair. Even when you think you've discovered every good song, there might be some lying there waiting to be discovered, or rediscovered in my case. I mentioned Block Party at the start of this segment. Back in Horizon 3 it was my favourite station because I liked all but a few of the tracks. This didn't carry over to Horizon 4, and although some of the songs in 4's version of Block Party were good, I didn't mesh well with the station as a whole. This was until I discovered some new tracks, ones I seemingly didn't pay attention to before. So, when you're next on Horizon 4, turn on the radio. You might just find something new. To sum this section up, music makes Horizon. Outside of the in-game radio, I've personally been racking up driving playlists year on year, all with the sole purpose of being songs suited to cruising around in the Horizon games. I'd go as far as to say that music is as big of a part as the game's overall identity as the map is, but I know that music is also highly subjective, so the soundtrack may not particularly appeal to everyone. I haven't spoken on the other radio stations, XS, Timeless FM and Hospital, because I just don't listen to these at all. If you do, more power to you. In any case, Horizon 4 gets my approval on the soundtrack. It's a cherry on top of the map and seasons that all come together in creating a world that's unparalleled, even to this day. Okay, we've covered a lot. So much so that I feel it's time to take a step backward for a moment. We've seen what this game was like at launch and during the first few months of release, but I haven't touched on the larger updates which drastically changed how the game feels, especially now that it's been 6 years. Let's go right back to the start and see how the game evolved over time to where it is now. October 2nd, 2018, Forza Horizon 4 officially launches. People all across the planet log on in anticipation of seeing just what Britain has in store, and you're one of them. I logged on with some mates. We all jumped into some 720s and went cruising. Can you guess which one I am? Shout out to Theo and Adam if you're watching this. Later, you're greeted with the Horizon roster, which is easy enough to get through. Driving around in Horizon Life, you see something off in the distance. Is that a blimp, you ask? And yes it is. The new Forza Fandom Life feature competes in hourly challenges to unlock points. Put the points towards rewards. Seems simple enough. Fun fact, this is actually how I got the Ferrari 812 Superfast a couple of hours after launch. I went on to set a skill score personal best of exactly 1,200,000 in that thing, which still stands to this day. But anyway, I'll stop interrupting. This new event is actually pretty fun, even with only a handful of other players. You get through all 3 rounds, and your prize? Those sweet Forzathon points. Loading up the Forzathon shop shows that it rotates on a weekly basis in line with the seasons, offering up new stuff each time. There's still some time to get more points and bag some rewards, so rinse and repeat more live events until you're done. Bagged it. A long day of grinding? Now it's time to chill. You look out on the vast expanse and behold the map. Your new home for the next couple of years. This is alright. About a month later, something pops up on your phone. The first expansion comes out in December. Wait a minute, it is December. It comes out in a little under a week. Whoa, this looks good. Fortune Island. Uncover treasure chests for credits worth up to 10 million. Check out this new Eurus. There's lightning, a huge switchback for drifting, the Aurora Borealis. There's even a new PR stunt. Very nice. It doesn't take long before the day arrives, and you download Fortune Island, ready to smash those treasure chests and get some new Hold on. Is this just a Storm Island reskin? With Fortune Island dropping at the end of 2018 to generally positive reception, 2019 was a year I was looking particularly forward to. This was around the point where I started tuning in to the monthly update streams over on the Forza YouTube page, and the one for January was particularly interesting.
There was one other thing we forgot, didn't we? One thing we forgot. Shall we jump into the garage a sec?
And then
If you just search my manufacturer.
it's yeah, down the bottom.
Down this one.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, that's it. That was it. How did we forget this earlier? Yes, Mitsubishi is back. Mitsubishi is back at the Horizon Festival. Yes, so this pack is free. It's free for everyone. If you're an Ultimate Edition player, if you're a Game Pass player, if you're a regular edition player, all you have to do is go to the store and you can download this pack completely free.
Mitsubishi was back. Yes, they were back. And if the chat was any indication, a lot of people were happy about it. Admittedly, I was quite happy to see them back, despite what I felt about cars coming and going. This was a clear sign that Playground Games were at least aware of what the fans wanted. I have a fond memory involving this pack and a certain YouTuber, ShinyOdd, who happened to be streaming the new car pack. Eventually it got round to us doing Cops and Robbers, and I was lucky enough to get invited. Here's a small clip of what went down.
Go on, boys, use me as a ramp, let's go. Oh my god. Oh my Jesus!
As the month went on, new cars kept getting thrown at us by way of seasonal championships. This update even saw the introduction of Isha's Taxis, one of the Horizon businesses which I still haven't played. I'll get round to it at some point. February notably saw both Quartz Regalias added, as well as a Skill Streak story. On top of this, the final car pass entries were added, the Cadillac Convertible and TVR Griffith. All in all, a pretty standard update by Horizon 4 standards. As always, time marches on. The 12th of March saw the update which would forever change Horizon 4 as we know it, the playlist update. Forza Horizon 4 and the festival playlist are inseparable in my eyes, combining everything seasonal and rewarding into one simple hub not only aided in giving the gameplay experience a better flow, but also allowed for more cars to be introduced more frequently. This was the point at which Horizon 4 evolved into something completely different, turning from a game about racing at a festival to a game about giving players the best the festival had to offer. Completing the Forza Fun challenges now went towards your overall progress in a series. Playground games, trials, showcases, PR stunts, championships, online adventure and rivals all comprised the weekly list of tasks to snatch up those seasonal or series reward cars. The initial reaction towards the festival playlist was overall a positive one. People liked that the devs could finally quantify a reason for us to log back on every so often. However, the first 2 weeks were a little odd. Do you notice anything weird here? The second reward car is only unlocked after a full 100% of that week is completed. This was the only major oversight in the playlist's development, something that would soon be patched by Playground Games on March 26th, representing exactly 14 days where you had to log on each and every day to unlock the reward cars. Despite this initial hiccup, the playlist works incredibly well as a concept, and with enough effort and determination, it can work well in practice, taking anywhere from 1 to 2 hours to complete per week. Unfortunately, this is solely up to the player and their skill level when attempting the activities, and a lot of people simply don't want to, don't have the time, or don't care to put in that weekly grind. A lot of them were also new to Horizon, and having this new system thrust in their face was pretty daunting. This is both a factor of people's real lives and also a factor of the way the playlist is designed, which resulted in some remedial solutions being put forward, but I'll touch on those in a bit. Me personally, as a 14-year-old kid when the playlist was first added, those Thursdays where I'd run home from school to catch the new seasonal stuff were great. It quickly became routine throughout the rest of the year and beyond. This is one of the core memories I have around Horizon 4 and is easily one of the reasons the game stayed interesting for so long. April's Series 8 update brought us the long-awaited Drift Adventure and accompanying cockpit drift camera, a small but impactful quality of life upgrade. It also saw the Barrett-Jackson car pack ported over from Motorsport 7, and while you'd think this was just another update, Series 8 saw 2 cars added which have become legends among the players for being part of the racing meta. The Shelby Monaco King Cobra and the Ferrari 599XX Evolution. I don't even need to explain these, but as a quick overview, the King Cobra quickly rose to become, well, the king of drag racing. These absolutely littered the usual spots due to their incredible power to weight ratio and near supersonic 0 to 60 time. The 599XX Evo also rose as the premiere of Horizon 4's meta selection. This car could wipe the floor with basically anything centred around speed. Motorway runs, circuit racing, PR stunts, Goliath world records, you name it. It quickly solidified itself as the topic of memes, criticism and adoration ever since. I'm sick of seeing them everywhere at this point, but that's only because they reign alongside the McLaren Senna as what people think of when they envision Horizon 4. May was another exciting month for the game. Online Adventure received the previously mentioned anti-griefing systems in the hopes of deterring dirty driving. A new Horizon story was added, the Car Files, which centres around proving or disproving car insurance claims. In typical Horizon fashion, you're doing crazy challenges and speed runs to determine an outcome. I found this one to be quite enjoyable, not taking itself too seriously while keeping the odd but pleasant atmosphere. This month also saw the new custom adventure mode, a way for players to quickly mix and match which type of adventure they wanted to partake in. Halfway through the month, the devs released a hotfix for Update 9. Something on the back end had screwed up massively, and all redeemed car masteries had been reset. While it doesn't seem like it, this was huge, as a lot of the buzz around car masteries was the ability to unlock various rewards from each car. I can remember booting up the game on May 15th to discover a whopping 7,654 skill points were now sitting there, waiting to be spent again. I didn't run those down until late August. June was another banger month for the game. We got the LEGO Speed Champions expansion, which at first seemed like a bizarre collab to base an expansion on, but with it now over 5 years old on its own, I think it worked out well enough. LEGO Valley has some iconic locations that even now I find are frequently populated by other drivers, such as the Falcon Speedway, the first proper oval track seen in a Horizon title. I know a lot of people bought LEGO just for this, though being constrained by the map size and general LEGO theme, it leaves much to be desired. You also have the city of Brickchester, which is definitely a pain in the backside to navigate if you aren't driving one of these Mini Coopers. This is probably the worst aspect of LEGO Valley, owing to the fact that you need to swing around this central building in order to pass through. One way or another, you're going to either have to slow down significantly or risk a crash barreling through these props that are in the way. Despite this though, the map really leans into the fun side of things. You have an airport to the north, which facilitates a nice space for drifting, though an even better space for this is the super mega awesome adventure stunt park, where I've spent a fair few hours sliding and swinging up and down the place. The crux of this expansion is arguably the Brick Challenge menu, featuring 272 unique challenges for you to complete. These can range from fairly easy to painstakingly arduous, and hey, doesn't this look kind of familiar? If there's any consolation, we got a new barn find rumour out of it. Even 5 years on, I still wonder what the driving force behind the LEGO expansion truly was, though it's safe to say it was probably their attempt at catering to the younger segment of the player base. Priced at just $15.99, I didn't have much hesitation when playing through the first stages of the expansion, and for what you get out of it as a whole, I think that price is pretty fair. Update 10 also brought in the Star Card, a menu full of unlockables and collectables. This was yet another incentive for players to get out there and explore, even dip their toes into the user-generated content side of things, or take part in some online adventure. It was also a genuine way for players to obtain the Capri FE, one of the rarest cars in the game. The month of July brought us not one, but two updates. Update 11 launched on the 2nd of July, and with it came a few big changes. The auction house now featured dynamic pricing. Car values would go up and down based on demand from players. This was both great, as it mimicked real-life auctions, but also pretty annoying, as cars which were once worth at least a couple million quickly dropped if there was no one actively buying them, which led to less people buying them, and you get the picture. Prices on these cars would almost always stay low. Class-based rivals were added back in after being cut from the game prior to launch. Tuners jumped on this and quickly got to work curating their best tunes for each class and car. This was great, as it pushed more people into checking out rivals and the tuning side of things as well. And last but not least, we got the Top Gear Horizon Special. This was a Horizon story that, on the face of it, seemed like a match made in heaven for a Forza Horizon game set in the UK, but really ended up being quite underwhelming once people started playing it. A lot of Brits, myself included, were still pretty hesitant about new Top Gear, and while I always knew it had no chance of happening under the Top Gear name, a part of me is still disappointed that the voiceover didn't start up with Jeremy Clarkson, like they used to in some previous motorsport games. Put simply, apart from the kinda cool reward cars, this entire Horizon story was mostly forgettable. And on that note, we also got the Ford Ranger as an auto show car in this update, which I personally found pretty cool. Update 12 saw a return to form in that it was largely playlist centric. No new stories, game modes or expansions this time. What we did get though, in my opinion, was pretty memorable. Winter included the brand new Aston Martin DBS Superleggera, a car I've put many miles on while cruising the map, and the Vanquish Zagato Coupe, one of the rarer Astons that I'm glad we got in game. To top off the playlist, we also got a new showcase remix, Super Fast vs Supersonic. This spiced up the Delta Wing showcase to put the Ferrari 812 in the crosshairs of an Avro Vulcan. Anything which includes the 812, I'm automatically a fan of, so you can bet I played this one a few times over. This update also brought the clues for that LEGO barn find I mentioned earlier, which turned out to be a Porsche 911 Turbo. The playlist continued to get attention in August with an all Porsche update. Players were treated to the 906 Carrera, 917LH, Ital Design 01, wait what? Number 46 Porsche 356, Macan Turbo and 718 Cayman GTS. A solid lineup of cars, even if it wasn't necessarily all Porsche. September's update 14 brought some more quality of life improvements to the game. Share codes were now a thing for event blueprints, a 9-digit code which would facilitate easier searching of certain events. Players could also sell duplicate wheel spin rewards. This was another small yet appreciated feature that made sifting through dupes and chucking them up on auction mostly a thing of the past. Update 15 in October introduced yet another Horizon story, Upgrade Heroes. The playlist also introduced a lot of fan favourites, such as the Rossian Q1, Bugatti Devo, BMW M3 GTS and Koenigsegg CCGT. Players were immediately hooked on the Koenigsegg, and it quickly became part of the online meta. November soon followed with Update 16, and this update was pretty unique for a couple of reasons. The fan favourite Ferrari 488 Pista was finally introduced to Horizon in the summer season. I can recall the buzz around this car for months prior to its addition. People really wanted this car, and Playground listened. Autumn gave us not only the Ferrari 512 S, but for 2 days only, the Forza Fond shop was having a Black Friday sale, with cars rotating in and out every 3 hours. This wasn't too interesting until I noticed that the Camaro ZL1 pre-order car was available on November 30th, and this sent waves across the player base. See, pre-order cars were special versions of pre-existing cars that could only be obtained by pre-ordering the game back in 2018, and only through selected stores. This was something that I can only imagine was penned as a small incentive to get people to pre-order earlier, but soon spiralled into a point of contention among the wider player base. People started wondering how they could get their hands on them, and Playground was seemingly hesitant to let them become widely available. The 2 GTRs had already been gifted to everyone following a livestream cock-up back in September, so that was 3 down, 4 to go. But we've got one more thing. Jump back to a day before the update drops. Playground are just doing their usual updates livestream on YouTube. And of course, I tune in. Just chilling in bed, I was already pretty hyped about the Pista, but then we got hit with this.
The GTR we have is 540, I think.
Anyway, guys, it's just about time for us to hand off to the Forza Monthly. So, yes, thanks very much for watching our show today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed Tommy's bargains. Oh, hey, I've just heard that we actually have just one more thing for you guys today. Follow me. We've got one more thing to show you today. Got one more thing outside. Come on, let's go. You have been asking and asking and asking, week after week, month after month. You've been asking and we've been listening. Because in the Forza franchise, we're listening. And in the Forza franchise, we deliver. That's right, it's back! They're back! Toyota is back in Forza. Do not go anywhere. Stick around for Forza Monthly right after this. If you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. That's our show. Goodbye! Whoa! Yes! Come on!
Toyota was back, and I mean back. As 2019 came to a close, Update 17 brought with it a whole bunch of new and exciting features, which fans were quick to celebrate. The Supra was included in this update as an auto show car for obvious reasons, while the rest of the missing lineup trickled back in through future updates. Alongside this, we also got the Eliminator, Playground's wacky, off-the-wall attempt at creating a battle royale with cars. You spawn in on the map in a low-level car and have to either camp out the time limit or go head-to-head with other players and swap out your car for something better. Dodging trees, lakes, steep hills and the like, you can also pick up car drops which will give you a better vehicle, increasing your chances of getting to the final round where you race for the top spot. All of this while an impending death wall slowly closes in on you. It's safe to say that I really do not like this game mode. Battle Royale has never been an interesting concept for me, and Horizon 4's implementation wasn't any more appealing than the likes of Fortnite. However, I understand that I'm probably in the minority on this one. I've seen people with well over 100 hours just in this game mode, and you wouldn't get those kinds of numbers if it wasn't doing something right. Even though I find playing it so stressful that my anxiety goes through the roof and into the stratosphere, I have a ton of respect for Playground Games and giving it their all in bringing this game mode to life. It shows that in a game like Horizon, wacky ideas are just the beginning, and with the right execution can be fostered into something that genuinely adds to a game's replayability. Oh yeah, and the pre-order GT3 RS was a level 20 reward. That's another one ticked off. Much like the Black Friday event, the Forza Fun shop in Update 17 was receiving new cars from December 19th all the way to December 31st. A lot of these were fan favourites, or ones I already personally had, so I didn't pay much attention. But news soon spread that another pre-order car would be up for grabs on Christmas Day. Lo and behold, it was the Aston Martin DB11. 5 down, 2 to go. To put it succinctly, 2019 was the year of Horizon 4. Motorsport was seemingly absent, undergoing its own shakedown. Going into 2020, most assumed that Horizon 4 would start to slow down, as the typical release cycle for Horizon games was every 2 years, and that we'd be due another one by the end of the year. That being said, we all know what actually happened. The pandemic was a strange time for us all, myself included. When the whole lockdown thing started, I was still in school, so naturally, with more free time than I knew what to do with, a lot of that time was spent in-game. And when I say a lot, I don't mean a few hundred hours, I mean a couple thousand hours. As the brand new decade stretched out into its first few months, I spent plenty of all-nighters up gaming, and sure enough, it was always on Horizon 4. I can still recall completing the entire British Racing Green story at 4:30 in the morning, all the while loving every single second of it. This is what I mean when I say that Horizon 4 feels like home. When the entire outside world was locked down, Horizon 4 wasn't. I could jump on Xbox and escape into the endless possibilities and situations the game presented. I could still play with friends, creating our own manhunt-like minigames or replicating Top Gear challenges for fun. This was all thanks to the game's willingness to let you choose what you wanted to do. At this point in the life cycle, the proverbial kid gloves had come off. The game felt less like it was trying to guide you, and more like it was letting you try out things on your own. Horizon 4's second year also saw a shift in how the developers were handling the game. Whereas 2019 was stuck on full throttle the entire year, 2020 was where the big content updates started to become more infrequent. And without the current knowledge that we have on how long Horizon 4 would end up lasting, not that many people were worried about it. The playlist was, by this point, the game's main driving factor in keeping player numbers up. Sure, quality of life upgrades and new features were still trickling in, but they quickly fell short of the high expectations set by the previous year's constant barrage of absolutely killer updates. January's update 18 was all about the playlist, adding in the open-top Hummer, Huracan Performante, Porsche Emery Special, and of course, the Toyota AE86. Update 19 in February shook it up with the Lego Chiron, Lexus LFA returning from Horizon 3, Rover SD1, Vulcan AMR Pro, and Supervan 3. On Valentine's Day this year, nestled within summer's Forza Fond shop, was also the Focus RS pre-order car. You can bet I snatched that one right up, and then went to go see the Sonic movie. March rolled around once again, and rather than a new way to play like the playlist, we got Express Delivery. Another Horizon business, which, to be fair, earns some pretty decent passive income for players when it's unlocked. Update 21 in April brought us the long-missed, highly anticipated Horizon promo feature. I wouldn't necessarily call this a major update, but as a returning feature from Horizon 3, I was super excited to see it back. Playground tried something new here too, by giving us brand new reward cars for photographing 100 and 200 vehicles respectively, the Ferrari Portofino and the Gunther Works Porsche. This was a great incentive to get people immediately invested in the feature and snapping away. Props to Playground on this one. This update also brought the first Brabus kit to a Horizon game via the 2018 Mercedes E63 S. This was widely regarded as a peculiar choice by players and sparked discussion around the future introduction of more like it. But unfortunately, we haven't seen any further attempts at adding aftermarket tuning packages for standard cars. May's Update 22 was more playlist centric, with a small tweak to Horizon promo making it easier to grab fast photos. It also added a pretty respectable 6 cars to the playlist, the most notable being the Nissan Pulsar, a car which had been in the early stages of scanning for the game as far back as early 2018. This meant that Playground had spent over 2 years working on just one car. Crazy. Something was seemingly going on at Playground, as just after the Pulsar was added, Update 23 managed to get completely sliced in half. The summer and autumn seasons completely bugged out, forcing backups of Series 12 to be implemented until the winter season. With only half of the update going live, we definitely got bombarded with a lot of Toyotas during the second half. Update 24 actually brought some new energy to the festival playlist via the photo challenge card. It was simple enough. Take a photo that met the requirements each week and boom, here's your reward. The very first challenge card gave players a Zenvo TSRS, which features quite possibly the best active aero ever seen on a car. With the arrival of the 25th update in July, new players held the opportunity to indulge in the Welcome Pack, a set of 8 pre-tuned cars to help them get a leg up. Naturally, these cars were quickly discovered to be absolutely overpowered, and I wouldn't be surprised if more seasoned players ended up purchasing it than its intended audience. The playlist in this update was also a nice hark back to the Horizon 3 days, with some Holdens and HSVs making their way into the car list. Update 26 was another one of those updates to tide over players while a big feature was being worked on behind the scenes. Almost like how the ocean water recedes before a giant tsunami comes crashing down. In this case, with only 3 new cars coming in via the playlist, and all of them being themed around British brands, it was more like a swimming pool getting drained than an entire beachfront. However, Update 26 raised even more questions when it announced that the garage cap would be increased for a second time, jumping from 750 to 1,000. This was when I started to get mildly suspicious that the Playground Games team were up to something. All of the big gaming conventions had been and gone. Xbox Game Showcase dropped a teaser for the new Motorsport, which was still 3 years out, but that's about it. Admittedly, I was having way too much fun in-game to even care about if and when it would ever end. But as the next couple of updates would reveal, Horizon 4 was about to go through another major change. By this point in the year, we were fast approaching October and the 2nd anniversary of the game's launch. While Horizon 4's content release cycle was unprecedented, I couldn't help but compare it against the past games and how they handled the content life cycle. Looking back at how Horizon 3 dealt with its new content, the conveyor belt of new features would have surely started to wind down about 18 months in. With Horizon 4 on the brink of being 27 updates deep, I was all but convinced that we'd be getting an extra year out of the game. And, well, I was kind of right. Update 27 brought with it 4 cars which have slowly become fan favourites. The Formula Drift 370Z, Lexus RCF, ISF, and the Toyota GT86. Apart from this though, not much else. This was around the time I just completed my second 50-lap Goliath in celebration of the game's standard launch day, October 2nd, and by this point I was even more hyped that the game would be moving into its 3rd year. And it was Update 28, which would also go a long way in changing Horizon 4 for the better. This update introduced us to Horizon Backstage, a new system where players could vote on a non-auto show, so in other words a playlist, car, to be added to an ever-growing list of cars that would be redeemable through Backstage passes. This solved a few problems the game was beginning to face, such as players becoming disinterested in the repetitive grind that the playlist had begun to feel like for some people. Alongside this, there was also the issue that the playlist itself was running out of rewards to give out in each series. In the months leading up to this update, the number of reward cars in a particular playlist would be anywhere from 3 to 6, and this contributed to the general discourse online being that FH4 is running on fumes, time for a new game, yada yada yada, you get the idea. Horizon Backstage was Playground Games' solution to the playlist problem, where FOMO, or fear of missing out, was rife, and after so many months, people were starting to give up entirely. But as we know, nothing ever hardly goes right, and the Backstage system brought in its own set of issues, but I'll talk about those later. For now, it was a nice breath of fresh air for a game that was otherwise starting to become a little bit suffocated, perhaps by its own success. People expected a lot out of Horizon 4 after those first 12 months of incredible gameplay and constant stream of updates. And while it might have seemed like Playground were ready to give up the fight, they had a few surprises left in store for us. Update 29 was more of a game update than it was a content update, and this was due to the launch of the new Xbox Series consoles at the time. Horizon 4 on Series X came equipped with better graphics and performance, capable of reaching 4K 60 frames a second. It also benefited from the quick resume perk all Series consoles have, making those 5-minute loading times a thing of the past. Not for me though. I still played on a 1S up until January of this year. As November came and went, the Christmas season was in full swing with December's update 30. Playground was certainly in a giving mood, as this update brought in an absolute boatload of new stuff. We were first treated to the arrival of challenge cards, much like event blueprints, but rather based around doing certain challenges, like speed targets, damage control, skills, etc. This heralded in the new blueprint builder, offering a new prop-based way of creating maps. And doesn't this also look like something similar? Yeah, Super 7 was the prototype event lab. It was even explained that it wasn't initially going to be added into Horizon 4, but the devs wanted to give us something to play with. And yes, that becomes relevant later. That being said, the fun really ramps up when you get 7 challenge cards in a row to make the Horizon Super 7! 7 random challenge cards that put you to the test! Complete them all without dying for free swag! Okay, I'll stop. But seriously, this was a new mode that opened up all kinds of possibilities for players to make awesome stunt tracks and really challenge people. Too bad most of the cards are just 599s on the motorway, huh? Despite the feature being immediately ruined by the amount of people not taking it seriously, I found it quite useful for unique photo backgrounds. But that's enough on Super 7. In this update, we also got the Quadra VTEC, which, like this and the Regalias, mwah, beautiful. Oh yeah, and we got the Jesco. And that is basically the first 2 years of Horizon 4. Wait, no it isn't. There was something in the Forza Fandom shop on Christmas Eve. Nice. By this point in Horizon 4's life, people were really starting to wonder what was coming next. Well over 2 years had passed since the initial launch, and new game modes were still getting added. It was certainly an interesting time. No one really knew what to think. Even though a lot of people had begun complaining that the map, gameplay and other aspects were becoming quite stale, nearer to the end of 2020, I wasn't quite there yet. The game still felt enjoyable enough to keep revisiting, and I never did have a dry spell where the game wasn't appealing, even for a few days. However, this feeling did start to creep in as 2021 rolled around. If I had to describe 2021 as a year for Horizon 4, it was the year where things finally started to slow down. After the Super 7 update, it was confirmed that the game would be receiving no new major content updates for a while, and by that point, we knew that the next game was definitely coming in the next few months. Despite the lack of new things to do, the playlist was still going strong. January brought us a C8 Corvette, Camaro IROC Z, and Honda S800. February saw the Hot Wheels Legends car pack, as well as the Shelby GT500 and Shelby 1000. The game was added to Steam in early March, which saw an uptick in player activity, as a lot of people have been requesting this for years. We also got the Peugeot 207 and this abomination through the playlist that month. April's update 34 added in both the Pontiac Firebird and Porsche 356 RSR from Emery Motorsport. What a name. And update 35 in May added the Jeep Gladiator Rubicon, Citroen DS23 and Porsche 928 GTS. Update 36 gave us the Mazda RX-3, Cosmo 110S and Celine S1, and last but very much not least, update 37. June 29th, 2021. Update 37 is confirmed as the final new content update for Forza Horizon 4. including one new game mode, Super 7 High Stakes. This was a secondary mode within Super 7 that ups the pressure, 3 lives per challenge card, and 3 chances to replace one card with another. The challenges increase in difficulty, so you can either stick at it and bank more rewards for more cards played, cash out entirely, or lose everything if your lives end up at 0. This mode is criminally underrated, at least in my opinion. Given that I can't stand playing the Eliminator, High Stakes is one of the few ways Horizon 4 can offer up a genuine thrill without also being anxiety inducing. And I can't talk about Update 37 without mentioning the Vuhl. This was it. This was the final car the game would ever get, but it also signified something else: Mexico. Vuhl is a Mexican manufacturer, and by adding them in, this was Playground's way of saying goodbye to the UK and hello to Mexico. So, if that's where Horizon 4's story supposedly ends, why am I making this video now? Why is it titled 6 Years Deep? Well, that's because it isn't where Horizon 4's story ends, at least not for me. Stick with me here, this is relevant, I promise. With the impeding launch of Horizon 5 only months away, those first moments, the post-content, pre-FH5 era if you will, felt utterly surreal. Part of me didn't want to believe it was real, but it was. With the months turning into weeks, and weeks turning into days, I still hopped on the game and enjoyed every single second of it. I knew that, at least in the foreseeable future, Horizon 4 was going to take a backseat to its successor. And it did. For about a week. I'm not joking. I played Horizon 5 for probably a week straight, and then said, you know what, I want to go drive on the correct side of the road again. I've always had a bit of a dilemma when it comes to picking and choosing between games. Questions like, what should I play right now? Or, how much value will I get from an hour put into this game over an hour put into that game? And so on. When Horizon 5 launched, that game took priority. But as that first week came and went, the first month came and went, the first 3 months came and went, I couldn't justify Horizon 5 over Horizon 4. Something about this game was quite literally pulling me back in. I have my gripes with Horizon 5, and a lot of that has to do with one thing: expectations. I alluded to this very briefly, but to explain it properly, when I was an 11-year-old kid, picking up Forza Horizon 3 as a bundle with my Xbox One S, I didn't know what to think. I didn't even know what Forza was until I put the disc in, but upon playing it for about an hour, I was absolutely hooked. That game is unequivocally the reason I am still into cars to this day, but coming from that game into Horizon 4, I still didn't know what to expect. My expectations were straight up non-existent, in the most literal sense of that word possible. This is the number one reason why sinking 2 or 3 hours into Horizon 4 feels relaxing, while plenty of other people quit the game years ago and won't touch it again. A lot of them admitting that that's because it didn't live up to their expectations. On the flip side, with Horizon 4 being the game that brought me so much joy, my expectations for Horizon 5 naturally shot up. This was my fault. And when Horizon 5 launched as a buggy mess, with a vastly different map, and I was starting to feel the onset of playlist burnout, it's no wonder I quit it and went back to Horizon 4. Nowadays, I can generally play them both equally, one doesn't have to outrank the other, but as a rule, Horizon 4 is still the better game. In my opinion. It only occurred to me recently, a quote that's been floating around. Comparison is the thief of joy. I've been saying basically the same thing for at least the last 4 years. Expectations are the enemy of enjoyment. This applies perfectly to Forza, where if you're comparing like for like, game for game, one of them will end up suffering because of it. Or more accurately, your own joy will end up suffering because of it. I ask you this, if your expectations are already at the bottom, can't they only go up? Back when Horizon 4 was still receiving updates, this was the mindset I held, and try to hold with Horizon 5. Who cares what they add, as long as they're adding something in the first place? It's why I can find joy within the smallest or largest things that this game has to offer, because to me, those things could easily not be there at all, as Super 7 literally proved. Okay, that's my little rant over. I've been wanting to get that out in a video for years now. But anyway, let's get back on track. With the playlist now repeating previous series, and not in order might I add, Horizon 4's only reliable way of getting certain cars was through the Backstage system. Votes ran weekly on what cars would be added from Series 28 in October 2020 all the way up to Series 47 in April 2022. Once Series 47 had passed, Horizon 4 essentially entered into a stasis-like state. Gameplay didn't change whatsoever, and the only actual updates the game received were to maintain servers or fix bugs. And that was pretty much it, until June 25th, 2024. This is the news I knew was inevitably coming, but it still hurt all the same. Forza Horizon 4 officially had an end date of December 15th, where it would be taken off digital storefronts due to licenses reaching their expiration dates. This wasn't uncommon at all, and is one of the things most known about the Forza franchise. All the games will reach end of life at some point. What truly confused me though, and a lot of other people, is that not only were all individual DLCs already delisted, but that the playlist had an end date as well. The DLCs being delisted on the day of the announcement was genuinely comedic timing. I was almost 300 miles away from home on that day, and had no way to check the one DLC I wasn't sure I had installed. Hot Wheels Legends. Thankfully, I do have it installed. What's even better is that the final week of the Series 77 playlist, which I'm sure some of you have already noticed I recorded a couple of videos for on the channel, took place while I was on the other side of fucking Europe. So naturally, I packed an Xbox controller, realised that the cloud gaming app changes languages based on location, completed the final playlist dailies while the game was set to Hungarian, and got 100% on the final playlist. And I wasn't the only one, either. But this is genuinely where the road ends for Forza Horizon 4. As of Series 77, the playlist has been retired. We're back to the Forza font screen that dominated for the first 5 months or so of the game's launch. Doing the challenges rewards Forza font points, which can be exchanged for Backstage passes. And the final update this game received was to add the rest of the hard to find vehicles to Horizon Backstage. Even pre-order cars, which makes my obsession with collecting them absolutely pointless now. The only exception is the Capri FE. I don't know why, go ask Playground. Between the date this video goes live and December 15th, 2024, Forza Horizon 4 will still be for sale. If you don't already have the game, or you're missing any of the vital DLCs, I implore you, wait for a sale on either Steam or Xbox, and get the Ultimate Edition. All of the DLC it includes isn't obtainable individually, as I mentioned earlier, and none of the other editions include any of this stuff. So, this has been a journey, and we've been through a lot, and I'd like to wrap it up with some closing notes. I've had the general concept of this video in my head for at least 4 years now, but it didn't feel like the right time to actually make such a video until now that Horizon 4's story is over and its legacy begins. This video has been a few things all at once. It's a look back on what Horizon 4 was when the fun was just starting, and what it ended up becoming once everything was said and done. Just how far this game now is from what it used to be exactly 6 years ago. It's been a teensy tiny bit of a tribute video too. It's been a personal cathartic reminder that while something may seem permanent, nothing ever is. As dark as it sounds, I know there will be a day where I play my last session of Horizon 4. The last time I rack up miles on the Apollo IE that I've spent thousands of hours driving. The last time I look out on this fictional Britain that I've grown to know and love. This video is a reminder to myself, and hopefully to you watching this, that the memories you make in a game like this are sacred. They're wonderful, and they're even beautiful. The people you meet, the things you might do, will do, and can do that make a game like Forza Horizon 4 so impactful and meaningful. In those days where things may not have gone so great, for the last 6 years, just under a third of my entire life as of writing this, I've had Horizon 4 to fall back on. I've said this before, but Horizon 4 is the type of game I'd love to show my kids one day. The emotional connection I've grown and nurtured with this game is something that I honestly doubt another game will ever be able to replicate. And that's thanks to all the spectacularly talented, incredible people at Playground Games who have the magical touch that brings a world like this to life. The people I've met along the way, the friends I've made both in person and in game through our shared love of Forza. The YouTubers who've created some brilliant content on this game over the years, allowing it to be shown to millions more people in the process, and hopefully changing their lives as it has mine. And lastly, that's thanks to you for watching. This channel would be nothing without this game, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Those who know me know that I love a bit of cinematic action, so as my final tribute to the game that has given me so much, here's one last one.